Hey, y'all want pizza? I'm sorry. Before we start, the sister said she'd like to order some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. We'd like to welcome you all to our monthly family night. Alhamdulillah. So the purpose of this night is to get our families together, inshallah, and gather as a community to socialize, to partake in some meals, and just draw our hearts closer together for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we don't just make these talks all about gathering and eating. So we try to do a beneficial talk, inshallah. So tonight, inshallah, we'll be talking a subject that's very important. Thank you all those who are joining online, inshallah. May Allah bless you. So tonight's talk, we'll be discussing a very important issue, and it is how to stay relevant as a parent in the digital age. How to stay relevant as a parent in the digital age. Um, and I had this conversation with a few brothers last week, and this would kind of spark this conversation. Uh, you know, as us as parents, many of us, um, I don't know how to turn up the mic. Hold on 1 second. Take a pause for the calls. Make sure the mic is up. Wait a minute. I think it's something on here. All right. Can you hear that now? Is that better? Okay, that's good. Alhamdulillah, I'll tell you. So I had a conversation. There's a monthly gathering I had with some brothers. It's called Brothers Build. And we were having a discussion about when parents, how our relevancy diminishes when our children get older, and how there's this one phrase I heard my beloved fellow Imam Amin say. He said that there's a difference between a man of the house and a man around the house. So a man of the house is one who's in control of his household, really, regulates the affairs, and of course, just leaves the house to the old fashioned way where he kind of takes care of everything and the wife takes care of the house. And then there's a man around the house who is really, not in control of affairs, not really taking charge. And we are seeing, we've seen this kind of man grow, and where men are not leaders, and they're kind of almost like sons to their wives, and may Allah protect us from that. So this sparked the conversation between these brothers I met with about how relevant, do we stay when our children, start getting a certain age. Of course, when they're young, they admire us, they adore us. They take everything. Everything is a blessing. We're like heroes to them. Then when they get old and they start learning their own way, uh, they become, a little more independent. They start learning from other outside influences, and then, they start formulating their own things. And even to the point where some of them, they start to contest us. They start to challenge us, especially boys, and they start to find their own way. In some cases, it leads to disrespect. Of course, we're talking in general, not for Muslims, but it happens with us as well. And then we start losing our control and our grip and our influence on our children because, as parents, we do raise them. We do have to let them go. We do have to let them find their own way. We do have to let them, experience life on their own terms. And it's something difficult, because all of our efforts as parents, for the most part, go into giving everything to our children, especially giving them everything that we didn't have, to give them a better opportunity, many that some that we were deprived of. But now in this age, this digital age, they have done studies about children growing up in this age, and they have said that for the first time in history, that social media is the most common means through which children learn social and cultural norms, and parenting becomes a struggle, and staying up to date with everything. And of course, there are some parents, you have some old school parents, they don't, not only do they not know how to navigate social media, they're not even interested in doing it. And then there are some parents who make an attempt to do it, and they make themselves, the children laugh at us because we don't know all the, up to date lingo, and we don't know how to navigate through social media, and it's really not for us. And there's a challenge for us to stay relevant, being in our children's lives, having an impact, and there's a growing thing about, even having personal relations with people in general. Many times people are connected to their devices, and it is safe to say that a person won't really get by in functioning in a society unless they have some type of device. You're going to need a phone, and more likely an iPhone. And if you're like me, you should have an iPhone 14, so I'm up to par, you know what I mean? You're going to need some type of computer, some type of device. You're going to need something to be able to function in society. But, there's a benefit because of all of the information that's accessible, a lot of learning options, and there are a lot of benefits in social media, but there are also a lot of harms. So tonight, before I get into the talk, I want to mention some statistics I looked up. So some of these stats, this first one is from the Pew Research Center. The Pew Research Center. So they did a survey last year in 2022, and they came up with these stats. They said that 97%. So they defined teens as between the age of 13 and 17, and they said that 97% of teens in America use the internet every day. 97%. So it's very hard to, children in that age, they're very aware of what's going on in the internet world, in the social media world. And it says that 46% of teens, not only do they use the internet, but they use it constantly. So they're saying that's almost half of the teens in America between the ages of 13 and 17, that they're constantly on the internet, on social media, whatever format they use, that they're constantly on it. And then out of the statistics of boys and girls, that 48% of the teens between 13 and 17 are girls, and 43% are boys who use the internet every day and constantly. And then they did statistics by race. They said that of all of the teens surveyed, 56% of Black kids are constantly using social media, and not just computers, but phones, iPods, or any of these devices. 55% of Hispanic kids, and 37% of white kids. And so we can already imagine that there's a correlation between poverty and the increase of this use, because children who are more affluent, have financial status, and they're not bombarded with, trying to get away from real life, they have other options that they can do, I mean, we don't have the options to go, kayaking and mountain climbing and whitewater rafting and all that stuff, right. So our only outlet is social media, and if the children are spending so much time on it, it can become dangerous. And then they said 36 36% of teens who use the internet constantly, 36 are between the ages of 13 and 14, and 52% between the ages of 15 and 17. So it means that as children are getting older, they're using the internet more often, and thus they're exposed to more things. Then they said out of the areas where children live, that 53% of children in urban areas use social media constantly, 44% of suburban children are teenagers, and 43% of rural children, people who live in the country. And so this has a big impact on our children in particular because, we talk, most of us are African American or Hispanic. And then they did a survey about the apps that children use. And so this study was done last year and in 2022. So you can imagine in 2023, the numbers have went up significantly. Well, this number is probably go up just a little bit. They said out of all the apps, they talk about YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter. So they said that 95% of teens use YouTube. Out of this survey that they did last year, 95% of teens between the ages of 13 and 17 use YouTube. And YouTube is wide open. I mean, everybody has a channel. And, a lot of these teens, they're following these people who have channels where they're making a living off these YouTube channels, 67% of them use TikTok. 67% of teens between the ages of 13 and 17 use TikTok. 62% use Instagram. And when these numbers, they're saying that they're constantly using them, like all the time. 59% use Snapchat, 32% are on Facebook, and 23% are on Twitter, or what's known as X, formerly known as Twitter. And so I've heard this before from some teens. We do youth mentoring sometimes, and they said Facebook is for old folks. So if you don't see your children on Facebook, then they're on all of these other apps, and on YouTube, you might not know who they are because people use all types of names that are not really them. And of course, on these apps, you don't have to use your real identity. And then there's some more stats that I wanted to share. It says, and now this is from another source. It's called the Kaiser Family Foundation. The Kaiser Family Foundation, which is also an independent research group. It says they said that in today's society, that between the ages of 8 and 18, that children of that age, they devote an average of 7 hours and 38 minutes to using entertainment media across a typical day. And so that's more than 53 hours a week. That's more than 53 hours a week. So this is like a full-time job with overtime for children, engaged in social media, right? And they said when these children are on social media, they're doing what's called media multitasking. Media multitasking, meaning that they could be playing their Xbox, they could be on YouTube, they can be on Snapchat, Instagram, and they can be doing listening to music on the iPod or anything like that. So a lot of children are doing these. They're engaging in many social media outlets at one time, and they said that in doing the media multitasking, it is more like 10 hours and 45 minutes a day that they're giving, to social media. So that's almost half their day. And of course, it's assumed that people are sleeping between 6 to 8 hours a day. So that's another 6 hours, 7 hours. So 17 hours out of 24-hour day. And the other 7 hours, is who do they have time for besides these social media outlets, and that's a very, staggering number of how many children are devoted to social media. Then there's some other things that they mentioned in this report. It says that in these social media, when children between these ages of 8 and 18 to use them, they said it was reported that only 3 in 10 young people say they have rules about how much time they can spend watching TV, which is about 28%, and playing video games, 30%, and 36% say the same about using a computer. So in other words, parents are just giving children these devices and just letting them operate on their own, and very few are monitoring what they're doing, because we live in a time where everyone has their space, and we live in a time where children just can, they can sue you, and, they can report parents, and parents can be subjected to child services and all of these things. But they said that also when parents do set limits to these devices and all of these social media, platforms, it said that children, when parents do set limits, the children spend less time with the media, and those with when they have limits set, that they consume up to 3 hours less media than those who don't have any rules that are put on them about using, social media. And so that's an indication for us, for our children, especially we have younger children, to severely monitor, what they're watching, what they're playing, and some of these things, and if you do a check, some of these social media outlets, They have themes that's embedded in children's games and children's videos and stuff like that. And it's very important to take a look at it. So we have to be those kind of parents that, not just giving to our children, giving to their every whim, but, sometimes have a little authoritative response to what they're doing. And it says that the amount of time that children spend on social media has increased by an hour and 17 minutes a day over the past 5 years, from 2022 up from 5 years before 2022, right? And then it says, um, about media in the home. It says about 2/3 of these people surveyed in this study says that 64% of young people say that the TV is usually on during meals, and just under half, or 45%, say the TV is left on most of the time in their home, even if no one is watching. So that's something very common. The TVs are on, and children are falling asleep with these TVs, and these electromagnetic waves that are being transmitted through the TV, they're having an impact on people's health. That's another study. And it says 7 in 10 children, or 71%, they have a TV in their bedroom, and half of them, 50%, have a console video game player in their room. So these kids have TVs, they have Xboxes, they have PlayStations, they have music devices, they have all of these things, and they're multitasking, and they're spending over 50 hours a week, engaging in these things. And there's also a report that says that they don't really have a cause and effect relationship between media use and grades. They do say that like no concrete evidence, but they do say that children who are engaged in this social media all the time, they usually get fair or poor grades. So they're doing just the average, in school, as compared to a quarter of them, 23% of them who are light users, they fare better in school. So they don't have any like significant studies to show, because some of these kids are so smart that they're able to do all of these things, media multitasking, and still get their work done in school. And for the life of me, I don't know how. Just my youngest son, he's in this age group. He's 15, and he made the honor roll. I'm still boggled by it. Here's another part of the study. It says that Black and Hispanic children spend far more time with media than white children do. And so these are substantial differences, that we're spending 4.5 hours more media daily than white children. And so that's something that's very alarming, that we're giving too much time with our children to be engaged and watching TV and video games and YouTube. And now all of these TVs come installed with all of the apps, it's very different from our day. You had to pay an arm and a leg for cable, and you had to wait for things to come on. And then, there was a time where the TV just went off, But now the TV is on 24 hours a day, 24 hours a day, And so here's another a stat that they have high levels of media multitasking, right? And so that they're able to, consume so much more in a little bit of time because all the stuff that they're doing, right? And it says they did a survey between 7th and 12th graders, and they said 4 in 10 of them, they said they use another medium most of the time, that they're listening to music, using a computer, or watching TV. They said that about 40% of them say that they are media multitasking all the time. So, and in one sense, it's very distracting because they're not concentrating on one thing. But in another sense, in a study I read a couple of years ago, that this is actually what makes these children brilliant, because they're able to, give attention to Twitter and watch these YouTube things and play a game and remember all of these what they call on the PlayStations, the patterns and stuff like that, and remember all of these formats, and they're able to do all that stuff that us as adults, this stuff is mind-boggling. We just be like, oh, I can't do it. But see, these are some of the studies that they have conducted and the impact that social media is having on our children. And now there's even a newer study that children are growing up and in their infancy, they're being exposed to electronic devices. There are mothers now who are raising their children, raising their children, they're putting devices in front of them, they're learning, and like things like writing, things like critical thinking is becoming obsolete with our children. And so this is something that's very dangerous, even though all of this access to social media and all these devices, it has its pro, there are many studies about the pros and cons. But we do have to give this attention. So as we open up with the topic, how do we stay relevant as parents in this age? So in my opinion, there are basically three options that we have. So the three options is that either we're going to keep our kids away from that, and that's like obsolete. That's really not going to happen, because as this technology starts to grow quicker and quicker, we have to learn. They are learning to adapt even more. So something that was in style just a year ago is already out of style. And there's constantly upgrades. There's constantly new information being you know transmitted across social media. The second option that we have as parents is that we have to adapt to the changes. We have to do monitoring on this social media. We have to learn how to navigate through the social media. We have to learn how to block content. We have to learn how to engage them and see what they're doing, and not be worried about if they become frustrated with us or get angry with us because we're in their space. We still have to take that authority as parents and make sure our children are not just taking in things that are having an impression on them. And you see some of the social media, it's not uncommon to turn it on, and you'll see things that are funny, you'll see things that are outlandish, you'll see things that are outright disrespectful, and it is being passed off as comedy, and children are becoming desensitized to it. Even adults, it's not uncommon to turn on social media, Instagram, and you see a video about somebody fighting in a restaurant. You see a video about somebody cussing each other out. You'll see graphic videos and stuff that you would have never seen before. People getting shot, murdered in cold blood. People getting killed on live. You know, and all this kind of stuff that we're seeing, and it's very, this thing has an impact on, your morality. You often, and we see now, women, young girls twerking, and I seen one that broke my heart just the other day. Because you can't help, if you're on social media, you can't help but to avoid this stuff. I mean, you can't help but to see this stuff. There was a young kid, he had to be about 6 or 7, and they got him in the studio, and he's flashing money, and he's saying all of these expletives that rappers say. He talk about, you know, my hoe and this, that, and I do this, and I kill a nigga, and it's 7 years old. And it's horrible. And some of these things, and what's most common, you'll see somebody going through something very, somebody, asking for money, or and what people do automatically now is pull their phones out. Everybody wants to record the next big story instead of helping. Somebody's engaged in a fight, instead of somebody breaking it up, or calling the police or whatever. Everybody's recording this stuff and just, oh man, dang, and this is horrible. This is learning social norms and thinking that this is regular. You see somebody stranded or something, or some type of incident going on, and people's first instinct is to record it. And I just had an incident earlier today, and it's having an impact even on adults. There was two elderly ladies stuck at a traffic light, and so I happened to see them going, stopped at the light with their hazards on, and I seen cars going around them. So I saw that they were stuck. So I went back, to try to help them, and there were at least 40 cars that passed by before a guy on a motorcycle got off of his motorcycle and decided to help me push the car. Like people are losing their humanity. Everybody's riding by just in a rush to get going nowhere. And you would think that it's common sense that people are seeing, these people need some help. And that stuff is heartbreaking. But people are learning these customs, by social media. Everybody supposedly mind their business, don't mind any other business. As soon as some type of incident occurs, everybody's ready to record it. Everybody's ready to get the next gossip and all this nonsense. And so we had to adapt to the changes. Or the other part is that we had to make a strenuous effort to reclaim our village. And we talk about, of course, us as Muslims in particular, but then in our communities where we live in general, we got to reclaim the village. And so we have to, as we reclaim the village, we have to work our way back a bit, you know. So all of us as parents, as Muslim parents, especially as Muslim parents, we long for the day that all of the work and all of the efforts that we do in raising our children and rearing them and making sure they have everything that they need, all of it is the hopes, of course, to please Allah. But we want our children to be able to say this dua that's in the Quran. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ ذِلَّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ وَقُلْ رَبِّ إِرْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Well, Allah says, lower the wing of humility to them, meaning to the parents, and be merciful and say, my Lord, have mercy on them just as they reared me when I was a small child. And so all of us as parents, for those of us who are parents, these are golden words that we would love to hear, or we hope that our children will make this dua for us. But then as we go back and review it, have we been those kind of parents that have raised these kind of children, that they will be upright and they will be praying for us? Because one of the realities of parenting today, and this applies to both Muslims and non-Muslims, is that, and I have to say it straight out, in the attempt to try to give our kids opportunities that we never had, we enable them so much, and then we expect them to have the same kind of values that we had. But what made us develop is what we didn't have. What made us strong, what made us have fortitude, what made us struggle is because we didn't have anything. But now these children have everything, and so a lot of them take it for granted. They feel entitled, and many of us, we're guilty of this, and enabling our children so much that now they become so dependent. And there are some things that it's just a different time. I was telling you earlier about when I had this meeting with this group called Brothers Build, and one of the fathers that was in there, he was saying about how his son, him and the mother weren't, together, and so for a good part, of the boy's raising, he was with his mother, and so by the time he got with his father, there was so much that he missed. So, for instance, when he wanted to, he said his son was trying to fix a flat tire, and he didn't know how to fix a flat tire because no one showed him. And of course there was some dynamics between him and the mother that while they weren't together, of course he didn't want to. I mean, I'm sure he didn't want to admit that, but but at the same time, because of the time lost with his son at crucial times, especially that age of 13 and 17, and way before that, when they're small children, when we're rearing them, we have this concept that's called tarbiyah, which is cultivation, rearing, and showing our children etiquettes. That is the way we want to be able to claim the village back, because as we go forward, we're not going to be able to escape this digital age. We're not going to be able to escape our children being, exposed to social media. So we got to find a way that when we are training them when they're young, they're able to navigate through the stuff with a sensible mind. So this dua that we want our children to say, but we have to go back and look at what we have done, and many of us, here's another ayat that's very important. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يَرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ Hawlaini Kamilatain. Kamilain. He says that mothers shall suckle their children for 2 full years, right? And some of us, we may have missed this. And if we are, we have young children now, we have infant children, we should try to get back to this where we are breastfeeding as wives, not we as wives, but women as wives. They are breastfeeding your children and suckling them and raising them and having that bonding time with them, which is very, very important. And then, it says, "Liman arada an yutimma rida'ata wa ala al-mawludi lahu rizqahunna wa kiswatuhunna bil ma'ruf." And then it says, "And on the father should be their maintenance and clothing in accordance with honorable norms." So we do have to get back to an element of this, where the men are taking care of the women and the women are concentrating on the children. And of course, in this current age, we do have to adapt to things because it's not really likely for, the old school way where one income can suffice in raising a family. So we had to make the necessary adjustments. So we got to work twice as hard to level up in raising our children, But some of this we miss because it's converse as Muslim, many of us, I won't say many of us, if some of us, we were born out of wedlock. And, I'm of an age, I'm 52, but, my generation, we had some elements of married couples raising children, but now this is not that common, It's not that common for children to be born with a two-parent household, and many of the children who are, the younger generation, they're growing up, fathers are totally absent, mothers are raising the boys, and girls are not seeing a father figure, and then these children are growing up, and then all they have is this social media, and sometimes it's raising them, and so we got to be careful with that because in order for us to build a village back, we got to go back and fix some things. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with Islam. And, we had the ability to learn from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam how to be caretakers of our families and be, parents to our children. But we do have to have an honest look at how much we've missed, how much time has elapsed and we didn't take care of our children as we should have. And in going forward, making sure that we are meeting the requirements of parents, because a big responsibility is on parents to raise the children, and now we're seeing, if, you look on social media, you go out in the public, there are a lot of children who don't really know what it's like to, stuff that was common to us growing up, somebody waking up with you at school time, somebody serving you breakfast and making sure, like our moms used to do. They used to, wipe the coal out of our eyes, you know what I'm saying? And put Vaseline on your eyebrows and all that kind of stuff and grease you down and make sure your clothes were clean and make sure your coat was zipped up and make sure you ate some cream of wheat or something and you didn't have a choice. You ate what your mom served. And nowadays, because I do some of this mentoring, with children and in school, you have kids that coming to school, their parents are not home. Parents been out all night. Kids are coming to school, looking scruffy because no one is at home. Make sure they got clean clothes. And I have reports from teachers, that they had to go buy clothes for children because they didn't even have uniforms. That mothers are not even showing up to get the free vouchers to get them uniforms, And so this is we're a microcosm of the, African American community. So some of this stuff is impacting us as well, because even if it's not us immediately, then the schools that our children go to and these children they encounter, they're engaging these type of kids, And so of course, as they're younger, they don't really realize what's going on, but and they don't know how fortunate they have and all the stuff that they have, all the stuff that we're giving them. We're working, crazy hours and spending all of our money just to make sure our kids have everything that we didn't have. And then what it does is it turns around and they want to have more than what we're giving them. It's not enough, And so we had to go back to that old school way of giving our children a lot of love, a lot of nurturing, and not a lot of things that make them entitled, because that doesn't really give them an opportunity like we thought it would, and it actually cripples them. They're so used to being pampered and given everything, then they don't know how to function in society. And of course, there's no, in this culture, we say that when they get 18, they grown, they have to leave the house, and that was difficult for us. But so you can imagine for these kids that don't have any kind of training where they were made to be independent. I always say this story many times. We get mothers, single mothers, when we do mentoring, and the first thing they want to do is they want to turn the son over when he's no longer he's just disobedient to the mom, cussing the mothers out. And so when we get down to the bottom of it, okay, well, what's going on with him? Find out, she bought him every pair of Jordans that ever came out. He has brand new clothes, a brand new coat. He has money in his pocket. He has allowance. He has everything at his disposal, but his grades are bad. He doesn't do any chores at home. He has no responsibilities. And then they wonder why that this boy is just doing whatever he wants to do. And now he's getting, he's 13 or 14, he's kind of feeling himself. His father may not have been around. And so he doesn't have any respect for male authority, and a male figure can be intimidating to him. And so he is learning to be, what's the word I'm looking for? To be against a male authority, not respect them, and those things like that. So these are all things, a lot of social ills that we are exposed to because we grew up in it. And by the grace and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he blessed us with Islam and showed us a different outlook. But still, these things are still present. And, we have to learn how to fix them. So that was what I had to present, us, adapting to this digital age and navigating through it, using Islam as the guide and being able to, adapt to these, all ongoing changes with the social media. And so we had to do some things like monitor it better. Don't be afraid to tell our children no. No, they can't get every new phone that comes out. No, they can't get every new computer that comes out. They can't get every PlayStation that comes out, and they'll be okay. They'll be okay if they don't have the latest fashion, they don't have the latest things, But if they have family, they have nurturing, they have warmth, they have people who validate them, they have people that tell them they love them, they kiss them every day, they have people to ask about, what they're doing in school, what are their dreams, what kind of goals do they have, and they have people that's giving them, or parents giving them responsibilities, helping them along. This is way better than any kind of material support that we can give them, And so, inshallah, we'll do a better job, as parents, because we want our children to make dua for us. But in order for them to make dua for us, that Allah has mercy on us, we have to do our job, especially when they're small, And of course, it's never too late. We can always change our outlook, even with teens, from the age of 13 to 17, when they start feeling themselves. We have to use a different approach, because I can say safely, and I'm sure many of you agree with me, when they get to that age of trying to have that hard discipline on them, it don't work. I mean, when I was 13 or 14, when I was younger, my mom used to discipline with me, and then I used to cry. And when I got to a certain age, I remember one time laughing at my mom, and she hit me with everything she got, and I wanted to say, "That's all you got." It didn't do anything. It had no impact. And I think she realized that there was nothing she could do anymore. And then imagine us having kids like that. So there has to be a different approach when we're dealing with them. You have to be able to engage them, make them think rationally, think logically, always talking to them, and use other means of discipline, because physically, that's what we used to, and that's how we grew up, there was always a threat, Even now we say codes, you use letters, GYAITHBIBYA. And I don't even got to tell you what it means. If you take each of those letters, you know what they mean. I'm not going to take time to spell it out. Y'all know what it means. But get Joe in the house before and that's what we grew up on. And it worked for us, but that might have not been the best parenting. But for these kids, that's not going to work. If you didn't use structured discipline when they were younger. When they get to a certain age, it's not going to work. And, hopefully that you don't get to a situation where the kids, overpower you, so, and so may Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala make us better parents. So I just want to do a little talk, but now we have our time to enjoy family night, inshallah, to engage each other, to break some bread and, to warm the hearts, inshallah. So this is what we had to present. May Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from us. Any mistakes came from me and the shaitan. And any thing that was good is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May He accept this effort from us, and may He give us the ability to continue to unite the hearts of the believers in our community and people who join us online. We thank you for your time, inshallah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to overlook our faults and accept all of our good deeds. Ameen. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Oh Allah, accept this from us. Verily you are the hearing and the all-knowing. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.